and cranky old man at that, drinking from the garden hose, remembering what it was like to be a kid and everything that's wrong with this world, and some things that aren't so wrong. Ed, what you got going on today?
Obi, just getting off of that Thanksgiving weekend, drove out to Michigan, 10-hour drive, actually a little longer with traffic driving out there, and just about 10 hours coming back. So I think driving is a really good topic because I spent a lot of time behind the wheel. So I think we should talk about some driving stories today. What do you think about that?
Oh, road trips. And I know we also have, you and I, two young or old children, depending upon how you look at it, getting ready to get behind the wheel. So, sure, some of those stories will revolve around that. But yeah, driving, I'm probably the only person I know in the world who's willing to admit that they're not a good driver. So, I got that going for me.
Well, Obi, you're the only person that will admit to that. And let me tell you something. Before we get into the learning to drive and teaching people to drive, which I think there's some good stories there, I just got to get this off my chest because I was road tripping. People who think they learned to drive somehow must have forgot it because I don't understand. Again, I know this is a common complaint, so I'm not going to be real original here. But this whole idea of going in the left lane and when someone's tailgating you, you don't move over, like, are you that oblivious that you don't know someone's going faster than you and you just screw it, I'm going to stay in the left lane? Like, what are those people thinking, Obi?
I'll tell you what they're thinking, and I think they're wrong. They're thinking, well, this jerk off's tailgating me. I'm not going to let him pass me. What they don't realize is then they get passed on the right and they get cut off, and they're going to get rear end the guy who cut him off on the right because that person's pissed at them for driving slow, but they're 3 cars behind. So yeah, F that dude.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe they're going to show us, but when everyone zips by them on the right and then zips in front of them on the left, you got to realize, hey, I'm the a-hole here, right?
You would think so. You would think it was time to stop proving the point and start driving in the lane that's proper for you to drive in. You would think.
Yeah, you would think. The good news is going to Michigan, spent a lot of time in Pennsylvania, a lot of time in Ohio. I got to say, each way probably only ran into like about 3 or 4 of those idiots, but it's still 3 or 4 too many. Like you just, and I don't flash the lights because I think I don't know. I think that's obnoxious. But maybe I'm thinking I should flash the lights because maybe they're just oblivious. I don't know. Some people get in the zone. Not really sure. But anyway, had to get that off my chest. Had to bitch about that. And I'm sure other people have had those same experiences recently with the holidays.
Yeah, I think you're probably right that there's other people who have experienced that and they're bitching about that for sure. So, since we're on bad driving styles that we encounter, we could also bitch about the folks who don't signal, the folks who come to New Jersey and can't make a left-hand turn because you got to make a right-hand turn on a jug handle. All sorts of people we can bitch about on driving. But
yeah, let's talk about learning to drive, though, Obi. I think that's where the fun stuff is, learning to drive.
So my father taught me to drive for sure, and I learned to drive on a stick that I later taught 2 other guys to drive on. My favorite learning to drive story, though, was it was probably my fault because, I was just learning to drive, but the guy behind me got real angry at me, real annoyed with me, and I thought I was doing the right thing. So I flipped him the bird. And I don't know what I did wrong while I was driving, but my father was more angry about me flipping the guy the bird than anything else.
That's awesome. I was always well behaved when I was learning to drive. Never for a second would I think flipping the bird was an okay thing to do when I was learning to drive my parents in the car. That's awesome, Obi. I got a couple things when I was learning to drive. So it's so funny. Like you said before, we got some young kids in our households. And so I have a 16-year-old daughter that I'm teaching to drive. And there's some things that pop up while I'm teaching her to drive that, bring me back to my youth. And so I took my daughter to get gas the other day. I wanted to teach her how to pump gas and pull into the gas station. And so she pulls into the gas. And actually, there's no story here. She pulled in fine. I taught her to pump the gas. Everything was fine. Now, again, if she moves to Jersey, she won't have to pump gas. But, when she leaves Jersey, she needs to know how to do that. But I tell her when we're leaving, she's like, Dad, did I do a good job? I said, you absolutely did a lot better job than the first time I went to the gas station. And she goes, why? What happened? I said, listen, I'm not going to tell you because it's your grandfather's favorite story to tell. So I'll leave it untold. But the next time my daughter saw my father, of course, he had to tell the story. So I'm driving into the gas station, and sometimes the pumps have long hoses, and I guess the hose was, this is 30-something years ago. The hose was out a little bit off the curb, and so when I pulled in, I was driving a big Chrysler Cordoba, big freaking car, and the corner of the front fender caught the hose, and the hose went up on the hood as I was pulling in. Now this is a big car, and the tank was at the back, so I had to get further forward. So my dad's telling me to stop. I didn't stop because I knew I had to go further, and I knew there was a lot more length to the hoses. So I just kept going. My dad goes, "Stop the effing car," and then he goes, "Stop the effing car now!" And he just loves telling the story about how I almost blew up a gas station.
That is good, and I would understand why a father would feel that way when you're dragging a hose off a gas pump. And stop. When I say stop, it means stop, and not you think you know what you're doing. Because when I was teaching my older child, who will go unnamed because we're not allowed to talk about him on the podcast, but too bad. I'm done trying to teach him to drive. It's my wife. She's going to now try to teach him to drive. So I'm in the back seat with the younger son, and she's in the front seat. And he comes around on the side street to this T. And he just goes right through the T. My wife's like, stop. And he keeps going and makes the right-hand turn. Never looks on the left. Fortunately, there was no car coming. And my wife says to him, you cannot do that. He's like, there was no stop sign. She's like, it doesn't matter. You got to at least slow down to look to your left and right and left again. You don't have the right of way. You don't know what you're talking, as teenage boys will do. So in Cherry Hill, where we're from, the DMV is notorious for failing kids when they go for their driver's license test. There are parents who will take their kids 5 towns away to get their test taken. I've run into people who's like, no, it's too important for my kid to get the license. I'm not even going to try in Cherry Hill. Other parents are like me. You will take it till you pass at the hard place, so I know you're safe on the road. First time he's there, he's pulling out of the lot that the station is, that the DMV is in. It's a right-hand turn. He pays no attention, and he just turns to the right, almost gets rear-ended, and the guy tells him, pull over. Take the whole test, but you've already failed. You kind of come to a stop there and look both ways.
So he failed right off the bat.
Right off the bat, pulling out of the parking lot. He failed, and he knew he failed, but the guy's like, since you're here to take the whole test so you know everything that's on it.
That right away thing does screw you up when you're learning. I mean, I remember, I took driver's ed in high school, and again, the times has changed. You don't even do driver's ed in high school anymore. Now you got to pay private companies, which is crazy. I had to pay $850 for my daughter to learn how to drive, which is crazy, which I was able to do in high school. But in any event, I was in this big station wagon, and the extra brake was over on the driver ed teacher side. I came up to a light, and I was making a left, not in Jersey, so I was in the left lane making a left, and I have a green light, so I didn't even stop. I was going straight and making a left, and light was green, and I just hung that left. There was cars coming the other way. I almost got a whole section of driver's ed killed that day. The driver, because he wasn't my dad, didn't drop the F-bomb on me, or the driver's ed teacher didn't drop the F-bomb on me, but I bet you he wanted to. He turned pretty white. He started off white, but he got whiter.
Yeah.
So I almost killed. But that right of way is a tricky one when you're first learning.
Yeah, absolutely. You think you have the right of way because, you're 16 years old.
And I had a green light. Why couldn't I go? I don't understand why.
Yeah.
I had a green light.
It's clear. It says go. Green means go.
That's right.
I'm teaching my friend to drive. Like I told you, the car I learned to drive on was a stick. I don't even think they make them anymore. But I'm teaching my friend to drive my car. And he knows how to drive now, but he doesn't know how to drive stick. So he pulls out of a parking lot. It's always pulling out of a parking lot and making a turn, right? And as he goes to make the turn, he catches my lights and turns on the brights, realizes what he does and turns them off, pulls out. course, the car he flicked the brights to as he pulled out of the lot was a police car.
Oh, nice.
So the cop pulls him over. What's going on? What are you doing? And so in the end, the cop's like, so you're just a jackass learning to drive. I gotcha. Made the kid get out of the car. He's like, you can't drive this car for the rest ever again. You know, whatever the cop said. It made me drive home because he flicked on the lights.
So it's illegal to learn to drive as a jackass, apparently.
But at least it was on that day. Yes, it was for poor Gus. For Gus, it was illegal for him to learn to drive as a jackass.
So it's funny. I learned to drive stick as well when I was 16 years old. I got my license first, and then my mom said, so I learned on the automatic, and then, actually maybe even before I got the license, I learned stick. And, when you first learn the stick and the clutch, and you kind of jerk back and forth a little bit. So probably the most embarrassing time when I was learning, my mom's in the passenger seat, I'm driving, I'm at a stop sign, and I start to go and I jerk through. It was a 4-way stop sign. I kind of jerked all the way through the intersection. And there was a car at the intersection with me with like teenage, they were older. They were probably 18, 19-year-old boys. And they were laughing. I didn't notice it, but my mom saw it. And my mom was like, oh, that was the funniest thing. Those boys, they were laughing at you. And like, that was the worst thing for me to hear, like that, kids that were like 3, 4 years older, males laughing. Like, I was like, we're going home. I'm done. And I probably didn't drive that car for like 2 weeks. I was so pissed.
My worst learning to drive stick situation was on a hill, a steep hill. I put the car, it's a steep hill with a light. I'm stopped. I'm in neutral. The light goes on, and I am not good enough to get the car in first before it started rolling backwards. And I rolled a good 5 feet back. Fortunately, there was no one behind me. And there many times on that road since then, there were people behind me, and I was like, ooh, learn how to, that was a test. And now, my kid will never have to learn to drive stick. And I'm lucky with my kid now, who I'm about to learn to teach to drive. I have a older son, as I've mentioned, and he's got friends, and they've volunteered to teach him to drive. And I think that's great. He probably won't learn to drive as well as if he learned to drive from me, but those kids who are teaching him to drive are probably bad drivers, so probably won't be as scared about his shitty driving as I would have been. So I think that's a relief for me.
Yeah, I absolutely think I would agree with you. I started teaching my daughter to drive, and I realized, A, I don't have any patience. B, I even told her this. I said, I'm really good at a lot of things in life, but teaching somebody to drive, I guess I'm not good at it. I said, so why don't we stop, and I'll hire somebody to do it for you, just to get you comfortable. And we've done that, and so it's worked. But just a couple of things, like, the first time I took her out, we were did the parking lot thing, and I had that flashback to my dad at the gas station. She was backing out of this parking spot. Now, nothing was around but light poles, right? And she's backing out, and she goes, obviously, instead of straightening out, she kind of goes in the half circle, right? So at that point, I'm like, stop, because I knew there was somewhere there was a light pole, right? I'm like, stop. Same thing, like, stop the car. And instead of pressing on the brakes, she pops it from drive into park. And I was like, and I just had to take a deep breath and go, we never do that. So then she's like, I had to explain to her why we don't do that. So then that was my flashback to the gas station. Like, sometimes, like, if I tell you stop. And then the other flashback I had was one of my driver ed moments was my daughter was driving, first time I had her on the roads, and she drove, basically on somebody's front lawn. Only 2 of the wheels, not all 4, only 2. And I just wish I had the brake, And that, the first time I ever went driving in driver's ed was before I even had my permit. It was like the day before my birthday, because I have a September birthday. And the guy let me drive, and I couldn't make a turn, and I almost hit these garbage cans, and he had to use the brake on me. So it's frustrating learning to drive, and teaching somebody to drive is frustrating. But I will tell you, Obi, like, one quick story here. I did teach one of my friends to drive a stick too. He had a Ford Granada, 78 Ford Granada, and his parents probably just told him, I'm not teaching you how to drive a stick. So I taught him how to drive it. They're 16 years old. And what was good about that experience was I could yell at him. I could tell him he was an idiot. It didn't matter. He was my friend, right? But I think I pissed him off because he told me I could never drive with him again when we were done, when I was done teaching him. So, but that was a good experience.
Yeah, no, that is good. I mean, it's funny. Like I said when I started this, I'm the one person who will admit they're a bad driver. So I feel it's only appropriate that I tell at least one of the proven cases of me being a bad driver. Although this is a great story because I was the driver, and everyone tells me it happened, and I don't remember it. We were talking about long road trips, and people knew I was a bad driver. So I would get the overnight shift. Better to have me drive tired with nobody else on the road than alert and other people on the road. So we're taking the overnight shift, and I don't remember it happening. But when the driving ends and someone takes over, everyone's like, "You drove us off a cliff while you were driving." I don't remember driving us off a cliff. No, the car dropped. You drove us off a cliff while we were driving. No, I don't know what you're talking about. You woke up everyone in the car. I'm like, I was asleep because I don't recall this happening. We get to where we're going. We go to open up the truck from the back. It was a big van. And the back wouldn't open because the tire, the spare tire was one of the ones that was on the back. It had the thing that held the spare tire had bent like 90 degrees up from whenever I drove off this cliff. And wouldn't open. We had to open. Yes. So I drove off a cliff, and to this day, only remember being yelled at by it and the proof in the truck that was a rental that I had done it.
So no one, when it happened, no one said, "What the hell did you just do?"
They claim they did. Like everyone says, we yelled at you. Like I literally put that out of my memory when it happened. I guess I said I don't remember driving off this cliff. No, and they're like, "Well, we're alive."
I have a feeling. That's a shame that you don't remember because the story's probably even better. Like what really happened. Like I'd love to know where this cliff was. And
yeah,
like,
oh no, I probably hit a curb, jumped in the air. You gotta imagine that it felt like a cliff to them, but I don't remember it. So I imagine in my mind that I hit a curb or something, and the car bounced like 3 or 4 times. But it was the back fender was dented, like the whole, like I looked like I smashed into something. Maybe I got rear-ended, didn't even notice. I don't know.
I never had anything like that happen to me before. I do know there's this one time I was driving back from, and it's nothing I did well. I was speeding, but we were driving back from the Olympics in '96, and we were driving through Virginia. And you're not allowed to have radar detector. Back in the 90s, everyone had a radar detector, right? But they're illegal in Virginia. So we took it, and I think we had it in the glove compartment or something. It doesn't really matter. But I'm speeding through Virginia, and I get pulled over by a state trooper. And he pulls, he looks in the car, and it's me and 3 buddies, and, one in the passenger and 2 in the back. And the one guy in the back has one of those travel pills. And again, this is like 96. So they must have just come out. And they weren't thin. They definitely were not cool. They were like the biggest goofball things you could have. And he had one of those on. So the cop, you know what cops come up, they always look in the car and like, who's in here, where you're driving, where you're going. And the cop takes his flashlight and shines it on my buddy with his big travel neck pillow on. And the guy goes, "What the hell is that?" And he goes, "Oh, it's just a neck pillow." Trooper in Virginia wanted to hear a couple of New York boys talk about their neck pillows. Luckily, I didn't get a ticket. He gave me a nice little lecture about how he scrapes boys like me off the road from going too fast, and he doesn't want to do that to me. And he let me go. So whatever. I'll take a tongue lashing any day of the week over a ticket.
Absolutely, a tongue lashing versus a ticket is well worth it any day. No questions asked.
But the moral of the story is you shouldn't be wearing a freaking neck pillow when you're in a car.
You should barely be wearing one when you're on the plane. But, now that we're old, you can't have that happen to you for a few hours. You destroy your whole trip.
Yeah, but I think we're 23. 23-year-old guys should not be having a neck pillow in a car.
No, you should be necking in a car, but not wearing a neck pillow in a car.
Well, I mean, not that there's anything wrong with it, but there was only other guys in the car, so the necking would have been a little awkward. I know there's nothing wrong with that, but it would have been awkward.
Yeah.
Mostly it would have been awkward because I didn't, that they, I didn't know that was what they did. You know what I'm saying? So anyway.
Yes. Now, so now I'm thinking the way you said that, was it stump? Was it not stump? Now I'm all confused.
That should confuse you. So I got one other story for you, Obi. And this involves a little bit of driving, but a little bit of just a little bit of shenanigans and a little bit of, those friends of ours that are just a little off center, right? So that friend I taught to drive that stick, right? So finally, when I got to be able to drive with him again after I was done being banished, I needed a ride to school. So he was going to give me a ride to school. But one of the things is I never liked to go to school with him because he was always late. This guy is chronically late. He's late for everything, right? I think he might even be late for his own wedding. So I always said to him, I'm like, listen, I need a ride, but if you're going to be late, I'll get a ride somewhere else. No, I'm going to be on time. I'm getting better. I'll be on time tomorrow. All right, great. So give me a ride. So time to be picked up. He's not at my house, right? And I'm like, where are you? And we didn't have cell phones. It's not like I could call him. So finally, he shows up like 10 minutes late to pick me up, and I'm like, dude, you said you're going to be on time. He's like, I'm sorry, I had to take a dump, man. What are you going to do? You can't rush me. I got to do what I got to do. So as we're driving, I said, we're going to be late now. No, we're going to make it. So as we're driving there, it dawns on him, we're going to be late. And he says, if I'm late one more time to homeroom, I'm going to get detention. We can't be late. Now, the way our school is, it was weird. We had late arrival. So first period we missed. Then we had homeroom. And then he had second, third, the rest of the day. So we had to be at school on time for homeroom. But it was so weird. Like if you went to school late, you could just sign yourself in. No harm, no foul. But if you showed up to homeroom late, you get detention. So my buddy's like, look, we're not going to school. I can't. We got to skip homeroom. And you might as well skip second period as well, because if you walk in, your homeroom teacher might see you. So we go to McDonald's or Burger King. I think we went to Burger King and got French fries, French toast sticks or whatever. So we're coming back from Burger King. Great plan. We'll get to school right for third period. We'll sign in. No one will know anything, right? So we're waiting at the light right by the high school. Immediately across, waiting at the light also, is my mother, right? So I see her before she sees me. I'm like, shit, duck. So I duck. I'm in the back seat. I duck. I tell my buddy, duck. I don't even care if there's a car with no driver. Just don't let her see you. He's like, what are you talking about? As he goes to go through the green light and waves to my mom. She knew he gave me a ride to school that day. So, of course, when I got home, my mom goes, why were you skipping school today? All because he had to take a dump in the morning.
Because Joe had to poop.
Yeah. His name wasn't Joe, but close enough.
Yeah, right. Well, when we can, we save the names of those people, the innocent. With that, I could go on and on, but we do like to keep this under 20 minutes. We're already over the limit. So I'm not going to go any further because we're going to try not to suck this time. And when you hear this, you'll see we had enough trouble with Ed's volume because we're going to do a second show about the trouble with technology.
As we should, because I can't get my damn speaker to work or my microphone or whatever, or either of them, whatever the hell they're called. We can't get them to work. But Obi, I'm really excited because I held back a couple stories on this episode. Our next episode, we're going to do a live stream, right, of Christmas lights, holiday lights. But then our next episode after that is our much anticipated sibling episode. I have a lot of sibling stories that do involve cars that I held back this week. I'm really excited about that.
I have a great sibling story that involved the car that I was considering lining up for today, and it went hand in hand with the last story you told, and that was the story I held back on. Also, will be great for our sibling episode, and you'll be able to find us if you subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And when you're there, like us, rate us, leave comments. The more comments you leave, the more we know what we're doing right and know what we're doing wrong, and the charm won't be that we suck after a while because we'll get good because you'll help us out. I'm
Obi, I think the charm is always going to be that we suck.
That's how that came out. So yes, the charm is that we suck. I'm Obi. That said, have a good day.